Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
From the beautiful city of Abuja, it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's edition of Money Radio. Today being Monday, it's a special day. Of course, it's National Economy segment of the program, and this is a new edition, a weekly edition. And so, National Economy is actually a special. The segment is a special segment, and it's my pleasure to warmly welcome you to today's edition of Money Radio. Abuja is a very rainy Abuja today, and well, just keep up with us. For the rest of you, you're welcome to today's program. My name is K. Samuel. I'm your host. In the studio with me is Sir Anthony Uko. Sir, you're welcome.
Thank you.
How was your weekend?
Great.
I usually ask this question and then I caution myself because there's no need. You look great. Yeah,
Thank you.
welcome. So today's topic says how Nigeria can avoid falling over a fiscal cliff. How Nigeria can avoid falling over a fiscal cliff. The signs, the economic signs, don't look good. In fact, people in government have been saying that Nigeria is broke, including the minister of the labor minister, uh, Chris Ndige, Dr. Chris Ndige. He just mentioned it. And then people in monetary and fiscal cycles have also been mentioning that Nigeria is broke. But if they didn't say it, the telltale signs are there because if you look at it, Nigeria is having to borrow to pay salaries. One government official said, with the current trend of things, there won't be any money in the budget for the year 2023 for capital projects. And there are many other signs that point to that fact that Nigeria is just at the edge of a fiscal cliff. And so that bodes danger. And if nothing is done to reverse that proclivity, I will say, that inclination to fall over the cliff will be there very soon. These are the issues we want to discuss today. Sir, do you agree that Nigeria is over a fiscal cliff in the first place?
Yes. If you for one, if you look at the level to which this economy has borrowed, not just outside from the foreign markets, but domestically as well.
Yes.
It borrows from all angles. It borrows from you and I
Yes.
through federal government bonds
Yes.
that are issued on we have seen that in the last 7 years, this administration has increased its ways and means from about 600 billion naira to 20 trillion.
Trillion.
So when you look at that within this period, that's close to 3,000% increase
Yes.
on ways and means borrowing directly from the CBN. And there's a cap on borrowing of
Yeah.
that nature.
Yeah.
Is capped at 5%.
Yes.
And this has already been eroded. And what makes it eroded is the fact that when they're actually supposed to be returning that money,
They are borrowing from
they're
further.
borrowing further without returning. So it clearly shows that the country is in a revenue crisis.
Yes.
There is a revenue crisis right now. And unless something is done to ensure that the country ups its revenue, that cliff that you're
We're gonna
talking
fall
about,
over.
there's just no way out of it.
And it bodes danger. When we say it bodes danger, when these things happen, there's a vicious cycle that is spiraled.
Yeah.
Yes. If Nigeria, because what we are talking about now may actually lead Nigeria into a recession. Situation where you are having to borrow, first of all, let's make this point. For every 1 naira Nigeria earns as revenue, she pays 1 naira 19 kobo to service her debt. So we are actually using more revenue to service debt than we are receiving. That is no good news. That means there is nothing left, and that means still having to borrow to meet up with not capital projects.
Yeah.
Because, like you mentioned, what we are borrowing for has no productivity connected to it. It's just to pay salaries. And so the roads, the airports, the railways that are supposed to be revenue generators are actually being left like that. And we are only, if you like, borrowing to eat.
And when you say borrowing to eat, it's just for a few.
Yes.
Because the people in government, in public service, they don't even, do they even constitute up to 5%?
Oh, no. I'm not sure they constitute up to 2%. They don't.
So it's just borrowing to fund governance
yeah.
and then paying salaries of those 2% of Nigeria's population, while the remaining
98 or 99 possibly
percent of the population is left to bear the brunt of their actions.
Yes. I don't want to talk about politics. Let's just maintain our economic discussion. But if Nigeria should fall into another recession, then when there is something, how do I put it? When you have something to lean on, you fall into a recession and you have something at least to hang on to, then you have hope of coming out of that recession. It's like being in a well, but you don't have any grids to hold you so that you can come out, or somebody to hand you a rope to come out. It puts you in a terrible situation. And that's where we seem to be going. There's no way out if we fall into another recession, because the growth possibility won't be there. And mainly these things are happening because of this issue of fuel subsidy. But then some other people will ask, there have been fuel subsidies before.
Before now.
How come they were going into the situation now? We'll take a short break very soon, but before we take that short break, let's get one thing into perspective here. Number one, during the tenure of President Olusegun Obasanjo around 2005-2006, that government managed to, like you said, clear the debt with Paris Club and London Club. Yes, to the tune of the Nigerian government, the federal government was able to produce 12 billion, and then the Paris Club struck out the 18 billion, which made it 30. At the time President Obasanjo was leaving office, Nigeria's debt, complete debt, local and international, was around $18 billion. But it would be mistaken to think that it is only this government that has been borrowing after them. By the time President Yaradua had left office and he passed on, Nigeria's debt was around 35 billion. So he had added something in the neighborhood of 17 billion.
17.
Yes. By the time President Goodluck Jonathan was leaving office, Nigeria had a debt burden of 65 billion. 35, that is about an additional 40.
35, 65,
Yes.
30.
Okay,
Additional
30. I need an additional 30 billion. President Goodluck Jonathan added. And let's not forget, during that time, during the tenures of President Goodluck Jonathan, President Yaradua, Nigeria's oil was actually selling, it was going for a hefty price. In fact, at the time, I think it reached $140 per barrel, but then it ratcheted at least up to the time of just before President Goodluck Jonathan left office. That was around 2015. The thing dropped to 70. But at the time, for a good percentage or a good length of his tenure in office, the thing had stabilized at $115 per barrel of oil, around there. But then when President Buhari came, the thing went, of course, as we are speaking right now, is about 100 billion. So President Buhari has added an additional 35 billion.
And don't forget, okay, you mentioned about oil having gone as high as $140 per barrel in
Yes.
the tenure of President Goodluck Jonathan. But Nigeria had a high level of buffer.
Yes.
Saved in the excess crude account.
But when President Obasanjo was leaving office, before he left office, that excess, not the excess crude, Nigeria's foreign reserve had reached 65 billion.
Yes, and then there was also much money in the excess crude
excess crude
It was
account.
over $2 billion.
Yes.
Even as at the point President Jonathan was leaving, the country had up to $2 billion.
Yes.
In the
Right now, that
crude
one
account.
has actually dried up.
It's in thousands.
Yes, it's in thousands. These are points that we'll discuss when we come back from the short break. Stay tuned, listeners.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back, viewers. You're still on to Money Radio, and this is the National Economy segment of the program. Today, we are discussing a topic that says, how Nigeria can avoid falling over the fiscal cliff. That's what we have been discussing. Still in the studio with me is Mr. Anthony Uko, and I'm your host, Case Hammond. So just before we went on that short break, we discussed how Nigeria has been plunging herself back into debt as a result of borrowing and borrowing that are unsustainable. By the mere fact that this thing has graduated from 18 by the time President Obasanjo was leaving, 35 by the time President Yaradua was leaving, talking about billions, 65 by the time President Goodluck Jonathan was leaving, now 100 still during the tenure of President Muhammadu Buhari. There is no nothing that points in the direction of coming out of this situation. Instead, we are plunging further. And we are talking about just debt servicing here. That we said for every 1 naira Nigeria makes, she spends 19 kobo extra. Sorry, that's 1 naira 19 kobo to service just debt. And that is not good for the economy. That is like falling over a fiscal cliff. Very soon, if nothing is done, we are going to find ourselves in deep trouble. Now, if we find ourselves in that trouble, it will be more difficult to come out than before. We have a window of opportunity right now in the price of oil. But who knows? Global developments may change. When I say global developments, I'm talking about, let's narrow it down to the demand for crude oil. May actually, the war may stop in Ukraine soon, and the world powers may solve their problem, and then before you know it, oil will start getting on the market surplus, and there will be nothing to hang on to. So many people talk about this fuel subsidy as a problem, but let's look at what has plunged Nigeria into the situation we find ourselves in right now. Some people are saying it's the huge cost of containing banditry and terrorism in the country. What do you think?
Yes, of course. Though a lot have been plunged into that, but I want to say that while these are like banditry, insecurity remains key concerns for Nigeria, of which it has expended so much the resources in combating. Nigeria's fundamentals in revenue generation and remain there with the continuous dependence on a monoproduct.
Yes.
We have seen, in fact, a child that was born in 1999 is how old now? 23?
Yes.
And if
1999. No, not 23. Okay, yes, let's say 23. You're right.
yeah, so a child that was born 23 years ago is no longer a child. He's actually an adult.
Yes.
And if Nigeria has been learning, since over 23 years ago, and we are still talking diversifying the income stream of this country, diversifying the economy. And up till now, the 23-year-old child is yet to even crawl.
Yeah.
Then that portends real trouble. I was talking, interacting with an economist in recent times, and he said he's been on several economic committees, teams for the government. And as far back as 2000, a proposal was put on the table, on the drawing board, whereby Nigeria can use the pattern that Netherlands used in coming out of its revenue quagmire.
Yeah.
In that, you can, what they did then was that they equated, they made, found a way of putting the recurrent expenditures side by side the non-oil revenues.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it was not at par, but they gave themselves a target, a 5-year target, to make the recurrent revenue seem at the same level as the non-oil recurrent expenditure, to bring it up to par with their non-oil revenues, and then to begin to grow it to a point whereby non-oil can actually exceed
Yes.
the recurrent expenditure. So you know that this, no matter the vagaries that you find in with crude oil in the international market in terms of pricing, their non-oil revenues will be enough to pay for their recurrent expenditure.
Yes.
In which case they don't
Depend on
they
oil.
wouldn't depend on oil, one. And then secondly, where the prices of oil fluctuates, they wouldn't have to go borrowing to meet these needs. And whereby they are able to maintain it and it goes beyond their recurrent expenditure, they will have excess that can also be channeled into capital expenditure. And this they did. So if this recommendation was put on the table over 20 years ago, in 2000, in the year 2000,
Yeah.
and here Nigeria is,
that means nothing was done about
it means nothing was done.
That
is just one example.
Yes.
There are so many other plans, policies that they have the government have spent taxpayers' money constituting committees to profile solutions, and they have profiled those solutions, but nothing has been done about it.
It's simply lack of fiscal discipline.
Yes,
Simply
so
lack of
that
discipline.
is just it. The government having the willpower now to discipline itself to say we cannot continue like this.
Yes.
Something drastic needs to happen. So until that happens, you'll see that it remains a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. I don't know. This is really a vicious cycle. And this thing seems, it's just too difficult to discuss because, like many people are pointing fingers at the cost of funding a war or a crisis, a security crisis that Nigeria is in. When is this security crisis going to end? When are we going to stop borrowing? When are we going to... And the thing doesn't seem to be coming to some kind of end, at least in the near term. So even for the next government that is coming into power, it's still, I don't know, it will be difficult. Something really needs to change, either by miracle or by some drastic measure.
By some drastic measure. Another drastic measure that one of the country's presidents, the late President Yaradua,
yes,
of blessed memory, did. The moment he came into office, one thing on his mind was that the recurrent budget was high. And he himself, he led from the front,
yes,
slashing his own salary.
Exactly.
And then the moment he slashed his own salary, every other person had to follow suit and take a cut.
Exactly.
Until he got to the legislative.
Some kind of,
So, but all of that, we have seen all those gains have been,
negated so far.
Negated. And the wage bill, the recurrent that was trending towards 60 at that point has
now gone up to more than 100.
Well,
it's not more than 100.
It
can't be 70.
It
can't be 70. It's not 70. We know that. Okay. It's not 70. Yeah, it's not 70. That thing is somewhere around 80. Because not many capital projects are being taken care of by, and that is what makes a country grow, capital expenditure. Because once you don't have the infrastructure, you're going nowhere. There's no growth. And all of this, the manufacturers are suffering. We see that even farmers are suffering. All of these things are weighing heavily on the country. We need to turn back about face 360-degree turnaround we need to do to get out of this. Otherwise, it's going to be bad.
And now, from every indication, it now lies with the next administration.
Yes. And that next administration will have to assume some kind of bad name before things get better. That is the fact. Otherwise, things won't get better. It's not that we don't know what to do, it's the willpower to do it. That's how I want to draw the curtain on today's edition of Money Radio. So thanks for being with us again. As always, it's nice having you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks to you, our producers, but our biggest thanks go to you who follow us loyally in this program. And know that it's because of you we are here. My name is K. Simon. I've been your host. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Money Radio. That will be the agribusiness and industry segment of the program. Until then, have a great day and God bless you.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.